All right, welcome back. We are game 1116. That's game programming 3 in the fall 2025 semester at Georgia. And it's week 9, part 1 of our broadcast and recording together. And a couple things to note. We're sitting here at the week of November 3rd. This week and kind of the following week, you can see that we continue with our third-person perspective game that we're working on. We're remote this week. We're in person next week, and we keep on flipping back and forth until we get to our final test, which is in person. Please note that the project that we're working on today, which is, or not today, but that we've been working on with our third-person perspective project, is the project that we're going to use as a base after we've built it up for your final test. So that's why it's important that you guys continue to work diligently on your in-class exercises so that when you get to the final tests, there's no surprises, as it's a very complex project. Okay, that's an important step. Okay, so that's what we're doing there. We're going to be talking about how to create an attack montage, an equip montage. We're going to create an item class this week, as well as we're going to add weapon pickup, weapon arm, and disarm interactions. That's what these are, right? Your in-class exercises due this week, Friday at midnight. One thing to note is there is a part for you to convert a part of a blueprint into C++. That's part of one of the things that you're going to be doing this week. Before we do adding montages, let us make our project ready. And again, for those people who didn't get ICE 7 done last week, I'm going to use my ICE 7. You can use mine as well. I'm just going to copy paste it, and I'm going to create ICE 8 from it. I made an ICE 8 already, so I'm going to call yours ICE 8A, right? That's where I'm going to start with. Again, if you couldn't do ICE 7 for some reason, couldn't complete it, and the only thing that was left for you to do with ICE 7 was build, right? That's what it was left to do. So let's just convert this to ICE 8A. Here we go. And one thing that I'm going to do here that I noticed last time is in my gitignore file, I'm just going to open that up. And one thing that you had to do with your gitignore file was add build and builds in your gitignore file. So here's build and builds. This is from last week because this one does not have a build included, but I want to push this to DevOps, and I want to make sure that this is included. If I don't do this, then it'll push my build to DevOps as well, and I don't want that. So that's the first thing. So gitignore must be changed if you don't have that already. If you download my project from from DevOps, ICE 7, which is where you should download, nothing else. Don't download anything else. Otherwise, you won't get any marks, and you can get yourself in trouble from academic integrity perspective. So just download ICE 7 if you don't have it, not ICE 8, please. All right, next. When you've got this ready to go, this is a great place to put it up on DevOps. So I'm just going to do the things that we normally do. So I'm going to open this in terminal, and I'm going to say git init, git add dot, git commit -m, initial commits. I'm just ahead of my terminal there for a second, but it will catch up. One day. There it is. And then the last command, of course, is git branch -M main, which renames my branch to the main branch. Okay. Now I need to set up my DevOps. You've seen this many times before, so you guys should know how to do all this. And into this folder here, I'm going to go into here's ICE 8. I'm going to make a brand new one, and this is going to be called ICE 8A. And ICE 8A is going to give me some steering instructions. I'm going to take these and go back here and paste it in. And if I did everything correctly, it should push everything up to DevOps without my build folder, right? Without my build folder. So one thing you were asked last week is to create two things actually you were doing. One is the build, and the other little function you were supposed to build into C++ was the escape or quit functionality with your code. And if you didn't have that, again, those two things, you'd lose like 2 marks. One, if you didn't do your build, didn't demonstrate that, and 2, if you didn't add in your escape, your quit. So mine should include that, but I want to talk about it a little bit because just to explain how this works. As soon as it's done pushing to DevOps. And you can see that I'm already at about 2.7 gigabytes. And that's pretty big. And the reason why I'm going to keep getting you to build, today you're also going to make a build for your in-class exercise 8, is because you need to know how to build for your final project, the one that you're working with Connor. And otherwise you'll have issues when it kind of comes to building your own stuff out. All right, so we've pushed to DevOps. We can close this off now. I can refresh. You can see that I have ICE 8A ready to go. Let's go into Visual Studio. And I'm going to do this by going to here. Wait for a second. And I'm going to double click on my ICE 8A Visual Studio, the SLN file. And from here, what I want to do, I don't know why it's appearing on my screen here, but I will fix it. What I want to do is I want to launch the editor from within Visual Studio first. That's what I'd like to do. I was waiting for Visual Studio to launch on my other screen here, and here it is. So what we did last week, just to show you this, is we created 2 things in order for you to finish your in-class exercise 7. One thing was we added a new quit action. So this is inside of C++. You had to do this. And you also had to add in the quit callback function. This is the quit callback function. People are still confused why I say callback. Remember what this means is it's a function that is bound to the action. So if the action is the quit action, we bind the action when you press the escape key to some functionality, some behavior, right? So that's what this does. And that's in the main character. And then in the main character, we have a function called setup player input component. It's only in C++. You don't have this function in Blueprints. And here's where we do the binding, where we basically say if you press the escape key, then you activate the quit function. And the quit function was something I talked about, where basically what you do is you use the Kismet system library quit game, and you pass in the world reference, which is the main character, the player controller, which is what you want to use once we cast it to a player controller from the regular controller. Pawn controller converts to player controller. We save a reference to it. We pass it into the quit game function. And then we have quit preferences quit. And then we use we ignore the platform restrictions. So if it was done on Android or iOS or someplace else, we would do that. If you copied and pasted it, Hayden, from let's say ICE 7 to ICE 8, and that's what you did, you may get some of those issues. The way to fix this would be just to delete the Git repository, like Git folder locally, and then what you do is connect it up again to DevOps. That's the quick fix. You would lose some of your commits from last week, but it's okay. And then you just push it that way. That's usually what happens with the refs, because what's going on is you've modified something. Especially if you pulled down mine and tried to push it to yours, and if you did a clone instead of a zip archive, then you'll get some of that. Yeah, so that's the problem. So maybe what you have to do is you have to go to the folder and you have to right click on Git and delete it. And then once you do that, you can start over a brand new repository and this should be fine. All right, so again, I'm here in Visual Studio. I did this. Control F5 should take me and open up Unreal Engine, the editor. Okay, if that's the one that fixed it for you, well, yeah, that's definitely a way HTTP version 1.1, what that does is sometimes what happens is DevOps times out. If you have a slow connection to DevOps, or if we're all connecting to DevOps at the same time, what happens is, especially if you're at school or something like that, or you're in res, if it's too slow, then it'll time out. And so what happens is, but that's why we use that, git config HTTP version. But you have to do -- global, so it's git config -- global HTTP version is HTTP 1.1. And if you did that, then it's going to basically set your HTTP version to 1.1, which is doesn't care, doesn't time out as easily, and it's a bit of a hack, I would say. Yeah, and that should work. Okay, so back to this. So now that we've launched, thanks, Logan. Once we've launched this project, here we are, then what we should always do is test it to see what we have. So again, last week we kind of had this, we can move around, and this is all through C++. Jump, so on. Okay. And this is good. This is the first part. So file, save all, and now we can close this off again. But before we do this, I want to go back to our adding montages thing. So the first part of adding the montage, because we're doing it in C++, is making a reference here in the main character.h. So the way to do this is let's close off Unreal Engine. So again, file, save all, and close. And then what I want to do is I'm going to take this part right here and add it in to the the main character.h. So back to main character.h. And you can see we're saying, kind of in the private section, so that's way down here. It doesn't matter, even if it's below everything else. It doesn't matter where it's put in the private section as long as it's in there. So that's the first part. So what this does is it makes a reference, but we're also adding in and in montage as something that we're using a t-object pointer. We need to make sure we forward declare this. So at the top here, what I'd like you to do is do a class and in montage to forward declare that, so that way we're going to define this in the CPP later, right? So again, that's what forward declarations are. And before we do this in here, what I do in the CPP, I want to use kind of add that in. So we're going to say include, and we're going to say animation, and then anim montage.h is what I want to access here. All right, because that's going to take care of our requirements in the CPP set. So again, all I've done is included that. We made a promise here, and we're including it here, okay? And now we can do a Control F5. And when we do that, you're going to see that we should see on the right-hand side, inside of main character, we should see references that we can add in the montage. There's other ways to do this. We don't have to use C++ for any of this. We could have done everything in blueprints. But for now, we're learning C++ for Unreal Engine, and that's what the reason why we're doing this. If I open up my main character here, and if I go to open full blueprint in the editor, and if I kind of search for combat, as an example, you can see that combat, the filter, has two montages. One is attack montage, and the other one is an equip montage. So we're ready to actually use these now, okay? But we don't have the montages yet. So the next part is, now that we've got that, let's make the montage. So again, I know that our friend Steve did not cover montages, from what I understand. Is that true, guys? Just want to confirm. You may have not got to it yet. Yeah. So here's how you do it. All right. So I'm going to go back to Unreal Engine, and let's go into Assets, Characters, Animations, and there's those 246 items I added in for you. What we want to look for is this: standing, melee, attack, downward, armed, right, animation. This one. Okay, so I know it's long. Actually, just up to here. I know it's long, but if you copy this and you kind of filter it, then it'll pull up that exact animation right here. That's the one I want. So the way you make a montage is you right-click on this and you go to Create and you create anim montage. That's what you do. Create anim montage. Once we do that, we can name it AM for anim montage, and we'll call this attack montage. Yeah, that's where that is. Now, because we're filtered, you can't see it. So if you unfilter, you see this attack montage asset. And notice that there's a bunch of animation sequences. These are green, and the attack montage is blue, this blue color. Let's save all. And what I'd like you to do now is take this anim montage and let's put it inside the character animations folder. So I'm going to grab this anim montage and just drag it in here. One of the declarations, sure. C++. The only one that I added in was this, and I had to add in at the end of the private, just this. So private section, and then we added in is anim montage as forward declaration. So you had to forward declare that here, right? Anim montage, and you have to include it here inside of your CPP. So now that I have my animation, it's called AM attack montage, right? That's what we have there. I want to modify it. So what you can do is if you double click onto it, AM attack montage, you'll see it does this. Okay. Why? Because basically you only have one animation sequence right here, and it's the one we chose. But we want to choose two more. And if you open up your asset browser tab on the right side here, right? Let's make it a little bit taller. See, there's a lot of compatible animations we can use with this skeleton. So on the left, I'm asking you to add in two more, and here they are on page 8. The first one is standing melee attack horizontal arm right anim, that one. So you can search for that here again, just filtering. We can just drag and drop this animation right on top of this swim lane, or this track, as they like to be called. So take this whole animation and drag and drop it onto here, and now we have two animations, right? And the other one is standing melee attack backhand armed right. So there's two right-handed animations. Again, we just take the filter and change it. So paste that in, and you have another animation. Again, just drag and drop this from here to the same track. And now you have three animations. What we want to do is we want to create animation sections or montage sections. So we can stop the animation or pause it, move this back over here, and notice that there is a default montage section. We can do this in this track right here at the top. If I right click, I can add a new montage section. And if I do that, I can call this attack 2. So I can move this little pin here, and I can pin it right here. So it kind of matches with the animation sequence. And I can do the same thing for the next one. New montage section, we'll call this attack 3. Here's a third attack type. For the one that says default, if you click onto it, and you can rename this one at the top here in details, we'll call this attack 1. So there's attack 1, attack 2, attack 3. The way it works right now, and the way we've configured it is, it goes from one to the next to the next. If I press play now, you can see that it goes from attack 1, and then it goes into attack 2, and then it goes into attack 3, like almost like a kind of a combination of things. Okay? We don't want this. We want each individual montage section to be its own. And the way to do that is if I go to the right here where it says montage sections, another tab, there is a clear button, and if you press the clear button, then it's going to separate these all. Now there's no more arrows. You don't see any more arrows at the end of these. So if I was to go here and press play again, you can see that it's going to play the first attack, and it's going to replay that first attack over and over again. If I want to play the second attack, I can just move the scrubber to the second section and press play, and now it's only going to play the second attack. And the same thing goes with the third attack. If I want to go here and I press it over there and press play, you can see now it's only going to press the third attack. Okay, there we go. So that is how we create an anim montage. We made one for the attack. Let's make one for equip and disarm. Okay, that's what we're going to do next. So again, I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to go back to my characters animations, and I'm going to search for the new one. So if I go back to the PowerPoint, it tells me, I'm going to come back to this in a second. Skipping these for a second. I'm going to go back to This one, standing, equip, over shoulder, armed right anim. That's the one I want to look for. And if I go there and kind of put that in there, we can see that we have one animation that does that. I'm going to right click here and I'm going to create a new anim montage. Again, I'm skipping how to do that. I'm going to call this AM equip montage. So there is the montage. If I take the filter away, you can see this one. I'm going to save all. Here we go, save all. And I'm going to take this equip montage and then drag and drop it again inside my blueprint character animations. So I'm going to drag it over here again, just like we did last time. And now if I go into that folder, we have two montages, the attack montage and the equip montage. Okay. If I double click on the equip montage, again, there's only one animation. Let's just pause this. And what we want to look for here, I'm going to come back to the other one, is the other animation, which is standing, disarm, over shoulder. All right, so there's the arm and the disarm. So let's just do that one. So copy that one. Go into the asset browser, and what we're looking for is that. There's only one animation that matches that. Drag and drop it onto the swim lane track right here. And then let's add some sections. So this one, default, is not default, it's actually equip. So we can actually rename that now. We can rename this to equip, right? And on the right, we can name this section, new montage section, to disarm. There we go. And we can move that little pin around so it matches the animation sequence like this. So we have an equip and disarm. Just like before, we can go to the montage sections tab and click clear. So now we have two separate animations. One that equips, so the character would reach around behind their head, right? Grab a sword and pull it out. That's the equip animation. And then the disarm is basically you have a sword in your hand and you take the sword and you put it back into its back scabbard, if you will, and then you let it go. Two different animations, okay? So that's the second one. We're going to fix some of this in a second, but first I wanted to create those two animations or two montages. So now you should have these two assets. Let's save all, okay? I'm going to backtrack now again. So now that I've made those two things, I'm going to go back to this point. I want to add in some sockets, okay? I want to add in some sockets. We've added sockets before, but let's do it together. So the way to add sockets is I want to open up one of the montages. Doesn't matter which one. Let's add the attack montage, okay? So here's the attack montage. On the left, there's a skeleton tree. The skeleton tree is on the left side, okay? You can pause the animation for now. What I want is I want a preview asset and to set up some sockets where the real sword is going to kind of attach to, attachment points, if you will, okay? We're going to start with the left hand asset, this one, the left hand bone. You can see that that is right here. I'm going to right click onto left hand and I'm going to add in a socket. It's going to automatically name left hand socket. You could change the name if you want to, but this is fine right now. It's fine the way it is. I can also scroll down to the right hand. So again, it's the other bone. I'm going to right click onto the right hand and add a new socket, and it's going to be called right hand socket. Okay, so two sockets, right hand and left hand. While we're at it, we know when we equip and disarm, we're going to need a socket somewhere in the back in order for us to be able to equip and disarm there. For now, I'm going to go back to the spine, the first spine, not spine 1 or spine 2, right? And I want to, because spine 1 is kind of up there and spine 2 is way up here, I just want to go to spine itself and right click and then click on add socket. So we're going to have a spine socket. Okay, so 3 sockets. Spine socket, left hand socket, right hand socket. Okay, save. So this adds sockets. I want to preview for now the right hand socket. So I want to go to the right hand, click on the right hand socket, and I want to right click and I want to add in a preview asset down here. So right hand socket, add preview asset, and I want to call this SK for skeletal mesh underscore sword. That's what it should be. SK underscore sword. I want to select that asset. And now you're going to see that the sword gets added in, but it's not really aligned properly. Let's fix this problem that we have, right? One thing to do when we're doing this, when we're setting up preview assets, it allows us to align and better kind of move or locate our sockets. That's what it do. So let's change the camera speed down a little bit because it's too hard for me to zoom in to something like 0.1. And what I want to do is zoom in now, and so you can see this asset where it is. It's kind of penetrating the hand. That doesn't make any sense. What we want to do is rotate it and do a bunch of transformations to make sure that it's in the right spot. So there's a couple things that are easy to do. I could rotate the sword this way first. Then I could rotate the sword this way, right? So kind of in line with the hand to some degree, right? So once I've rotated it, I could move it. So I can move it around. So I can say, let's move the sword in place. So kind of something like this. And I can certainly do this by eye. But if you're not great at doing this kind of stuff, let's say you're just not great with 3D, some people are just not, from a visualization perspective. I've given you some numbers, and we're going to talk about those in a second. So I kind of move this in place so that the sword is in the right spot, something like between this little area here, which is like kind of a gold area in the hilt of the sword, and then between the guard. So there's the guard and the hilt. There's this little gold area, and you can see that it's something that looks like this. It can also use a bit of adjustment. It's not quite aligned properly. Like it probably can, be rotated a little bit more as well. So again, make sure you click on that right hand socket and you can just do some rotation. Let's take off the snapping because this is snapping, it's built in. And we can just rotate this just a touch just to make it a little bit better. And again, just align it so it's just aligned a little nicer. If you like that, you can certainly keep it, the one you have, and then you can test it to see what it looks like when you're playing the, kind of the video, right, or the animation. Now you're going to notice that if you slow things down a little bit, or if you go keyframe by keyframe from scrubbing it, you're going to see that sometimes the sword will go in places that you don't want it to go. Like it might cut the character. Not now in this case, but if we make another character, it might do that. Or if you have a shield in place, it might go through a shield or something. We can adjust those things. So there's the sword here. This looks pretty good. You can see that the sword is aligned pretty nicely, right, as an example. And same thing with this uppercut that we're going to do here too. So there's like 3 things we've added in for the weapon, which is pretty cool. If you want exact numbers, I provide them here for you. So if you go down to here, I provided some numbers here that you can use, and I will use them here as well just to make sure that I'm aligned with what it says here. So I'm almost the same, but you can see that I'm very close. I kind of made it to this. So -9 was something like about around what it should be, and 1.3. See how close I am just by eyeing it. So a little bit off here from what my initial numbers were. And this is my rotation. So let's see what the rotation looks like. This is where it's really off. That's okay. We're going to fix this because I also have a rotation of -90 here and the relative location. So I guess I'm just changing all these so that it looks right. And then we're going to have the exact numbers. And I guess I'm just taking these from the PowerPoint. There we go. So now those are the exact numbers that I had previously figured out before today. So if you want to use those numbers, you certainly can. I am. And that's kind of an important way to do it. So that's first thing. So first thing is the attack montage. It's pretty much done now. We can close this off. I now want to go into the equip montage. This is the next part. The equip montage also has some positions. One of them is the spine socket. Here's the spine socket. Let's add in a, again, I'm going to kind of just pause this for a second. Let's add in a preview socket. It'll be the same thing. So I'm going to go add preview asset. Let's add in sk_sword. And here we're going to do is it's going to be added in. But the problem is, well, the sword kind of goes through it. And it's in kind of completely misaligned with what it's going to be. Again, you can go and fiddle with it like I was showing you and do it on your own if you feel like you want to do that. Or you can just accept my numbers. And I'm just going to do that right now just for speed. I'm just going to grab these numbers here. Again, they're on slide 19. And this way it's like, I don't have to think about it because I've already done this work, but you can certainly do that on your own. I think it's pretty, there's a bit of an a little bit of artistry there to kind of, kind of figure that out. And I think there's nothing wrong with trial and error and figuring out how to move objects, inside of a scene just fine, right? So I'm just going to put these in here like so. And then you're going to have the object aligned to the back fairly where I like it. Now, if you don't like it there, or if you want to change location, you can, but I'll show you why I decided for it to be there. So now there's the sword. This is the spine socket. You can see that it's moved up there. See, the sword is there. And so how does this work? Well, if I do the equip, imagine if I'm putting the sword, I'm taking the sword from here. So I'm kind of go up to where this, approximately where the spine socket is. The sword will weld itself to my hand, and then I'm going to take it out. Now this is the problem with this. I'm going through my head. So we need to make some adjustments here on how to make this work. And I'll show you how to do that now. This is what happens. It kind of goes through my head. It's not good. And then the same thing goes with the disarm. So with the disarm, I start with the sword in my hand. Okay, here's the sword in my hand. And then I kind of stave myself in the head, as you can see what's happening here, right, as I'm disarming. So why is that? Can anyone tell me why this is happening? We don't have a lot of time, but I want to explore this with you for 1 second. Anybody? Why is this happening? Why did I give you a, you know, a, what did I give you a animation that's broken? Is it broken? Logan says, no idea, I'm behind. It's okay. You can catch up in a second, Logan. But does anyone tell me why the animation would go through the person's head? Why? Like, why would I give you something like that? Well, the answer is I didn't, right? We downloaded some animations, animations from Mixamo. And Mixamo has a bunch of animations and characters. These animations that we downloaded can work for quote unquote any character. However, some characters need adjustment, and this is how we can adjust them. I want to adjust both the first animation. So Logan, maybe you just want to pay attention for a second to see the general idea, and then you can do it on your own. All right. So, and for anyone else who's behind, okay, as an example. So take a look at this. I've got two animations here, the standing equip over the shoulder, arm right anim, and the other one, which is standing disarm over the shoulder. There's two animations. I'm going to start with this one. So I'm going to double click here on the swim lane, which is going to bring up my animation sequence. It shows the sword in my hand. There it is. And then it's showing me the, kind of the stow sequence. So it kind of brings it up. Oh, sorry, this is the arm sequence. So it kind of brings it up, right? And then don't worry about going through the head here because there's no sword in the hand right now, right? It's when I grab the sword from here and then I take it out. This is where I stave myself in the head, okay? So we don't have to do the entire one. I don't have to fix them here, but I definitely have to fix it when it comes out of here, okay? So how to do this? You have to use keyframes. And again, I'm in the anim sequence, not the animation montage. Can't do this in the montage, okay? So here at the bottom, what I want to do is I want to think about which bones I want to track in my right hand. So again, I go back to the bones, and these are the skeleton tree, and I'm going to start with the right shoulder. So this is something that I may want to change. It's the right clavicle for the most part. That's what that is. And I want to track that, so I want to add in a keyframe. Okay, so I want to add in keyframes at the beginning, this is the process, and the end of the animation that I want to change. So here's the one at the beginning. So when I click on key, it adds in a right shoulder curve. You can see that that's where it starts. And I want to get the right arm in there. So add that key. I also want to do the right forearm because that's also a possibility. I may have to change that. Add that key. And as well the right hand and add that key. So those are the four different bones that I'm tracking. Now I want to scrub all the way to the other side when I'm done, when I've pulled it out, somewhere over here, right? And what I want to do is I want to add keys again for those same bones. So I want to go back to the right shoulder and I want to click on add key. And I want to go to the right arm and I want to click on add key. It's going to add it wherever my scrubber is. I'm going to go to my right forearm and click on add key. And finally the right hand and click on add key. There we go. So those are all the keys that I have for the animations. So from the beginning to the end. Now, what we want to do is we want to fix it so that I don't care about this because she doesn't have the character doesn't have the sword in her hand. So even though it's a preview asset, there's nothing in her hand right now. So I'm not actually staving myself in the head. It's really when it comes to from here out. So when I come out of the sword, and let's look at it from another angle here so you can see. So here's the sword. So first of all, her hand is in her head. That is what we've done with this little animation. So it kind of goes in her head. So I can actually fix it here as well. So an easy fix, even though we're not staving the person in the head because I'm just picking up the sword, I could start changing it even earlier. So instead of going to, tracking inside the head, let's start fixing it right now. So first of all, the hand is kind of weird, and so is the arm. And I want to make it so we miss. The right hand is what I'm looking at, but let's move it one back to the arm. So if I move the arm back, so again, I'm like this, and all I want to do is I want to rotate it this way, right? So the way to do that is take this, kind of rotation across the y-axis here in this orientation, and I want to rotate the arm back this way, okay? That's all I'm doing. So once I've rotated the arm back that way, right, the hand is positioned differently because the arm and the hand are all connected, So I rotate this, I also rotate the hand, and if I press key, now I've created a curve, look at that, for the right forearm. The curve changes, so I've changed the rotation of this thing. So now if I continue to move, as I'm moving, you can see that it gets closer. So I'm up here now, and again, I'm missing the head by a significant margin. And then I get to the point where, right, I'm hitting the head with the sword. Now, again, it's use the sword as almost like I'm not really hitting. There's nothing in my hand at this point. But let's suppose I would take it back a step. And what I can do is I can continue to rotate. Now, I can rotate just the forearm. I can also rotate the shoulder. Let's just continue with the forearm. So at this point, I want to rotate the forearm even more, and I want to click another key. There we go. So key number 2. So then I kind of rotate the forearm, right? And I'm missing my head, thank God. And then you can see I'm cutting into my head at this point. So again, maybe more forearm, about right here, let's say. I want to kind of move the forearm this way again. So again, I kind of rotate the forearm up here. Little steps, guys. And then keyframe. And then it's going to go in that same direction. And then I'm right to here. I grab the item. Here it is. That's pretty good, right? I haven't done anything. And now, as I'm pulling out, do I kill myself with the sword? And I do, right here, right? So I don't want to do that, clearly. I want to pull it out, but a couple things I can do here. At this point, I can change the orientation of my hand. So my hand is kind of like this wackiness. I can change my hand rotation. So again, across the x-axis, right? So again, hand rotation, right? I want to change that. So I want to change that rotation. I want to get the key in there. But I also want to change my arm rotation, my forearm. Again, I want to rotate that just a bit back more. Right? There we are, the forearm. Right? Just a bit. And I also want to rotate the shoulder. So the shoulder itself, which is, the right arm, actually. The right arm is what I want. I want to rotate the right arm a little bit more to kind of come out here. Okay, again, the more you do this, the more the model warps a little bit. You can see that there are some weird things happening, and it's not perfect what we're doing, right? We're modifying the model, but I want to do that. So keyframe, and so now let's try and see what this looks like. So it kind of comes up, misses the head, kind of goes in there, it kind of hits the body right here, right? But again, there's no sword. So then it kind of does one of these, it wraps around. Now I grab my sword, right? So I kind of grab my sword, and now this is where I need to rotate the hand a little bit more. So again, going back to the hand, I want to rotate it across the y-axis, so kind of one of these to match up with what I have here as my thing. So keyframe. And then what I want to do is when I get that, as I drag out the item, right? I drag out the item. I want to definitely pull my arm back this way again. So again, I get my my arm, right? And I can move it this way. Again, if you see the sword that's inside the person's body, that's not a good thing, right? So I definitely want to keyframe that, but I also want to change the right hand position because this is wrong. So kind of move that sword so that it's out and maybe even a little bit up, right? So keyframe. Again, it might be funky how it looks like at the end, right? Because I'm kind of doing one of these. I'm going to kind of grab it, grab the sword, right? And it goes inside my body right here. So this is another thing. By the way, you can always restart if you want to as well. So if I click on any one of these keyframes and right click, I can delete, right? The curve. I can delete the entire thing if I want to as well. And you can start over again. So this is kind of something that I'm showing you, but it takes a little bit of practice. And again, there's some artistry involved. So again, take a look at that weirdness, right? Kind of comes in and then I'm changing it. It's in there. So that's not good. So I can modify it there as well. So kind of do one of these and one of these. There we go. Keyframe. So when it comes to that, it's like this kind of funkiness, right? And then it kind of goes in there. Again, I don't want that. So I can, even here where it dips down, the right hand is the thing that's happening. It's got to be the one that you're clicking on, right? Because otherwise it won't remember. So again, I want to kind of put it like this and move like this. Okay. Keyframe. Like that's weird. Look at that. There. So it kind of needs to be put in there as well. I mean, again, at this point, I'm almost thinking about starting over, but only because, I messed up a bunch of times. And that's okay. That's totally okay. So again, I want to just rotate this out a little bit so it's not clipping. That's all I want to do, right? Kind of use that again, keyframe. There's a lot of frames here. So, like right there, another one, right? So again, I can keep doing this over and over again, or I can start over. But the point is, now that I've got my sword, let's suppose I continue. What I don't want it to do is cut my head off. So it's now, notice that I can kind of take my sword out, and the idea is I'm not penetrating my head. So grab it. It's going to be so fast too. Grab it, and then right here, approximately right here, is probably where I want to pull this right arm back. So again, here's the right arm again, and I want to kind of angle it back a little bit more, and then click keyframe. So again, so it'll be like this. It'll be like this. Grab the sword and come back out, and just don't want it to hit my head. Still pretty close, I think, and I want to rotate the arm again a little bit more there. Keyframe. And back to position. So that's how it looks like. So then the entire animation, then, if you want to look at it from the front, pull it out and see what it looks like. See how bad it is? And so it's like boom, and then you can't really tell. As long as it doesn't clip into the person's head, you're good to go. It's not clipping the head anymore, and I think this is acceptable for me. You might not like it. You might be more detailed than I have, and I think that's something that you can do. All right, so now that we've got that animation done, let's go back to the anim montage and do the other one, because there's two pieces, right? There's the arm, and now we want to do the disarm, which is just as bad. So again, double click on the disarm, and you can see that it goes to the person's head, right? And it goes in a couple places. The really critical ones was when it goes back in there, like here. So, so again, it's kind of the same thing, right? It goes right inside the person's head and then gets put away. So you want to put that, swing that arm back a little bit more, rotate that arm a bit so that it misses, right? So again, what I would do is this is the process, keyframes. So I want to start off with the right hand. So right shoulder, keyframe, right arm, keyframe, right forearm, keyframe, right hand, keyframe. Okay, once I've got those keyframes in place, then I want to do them at the end. So way over here, somewhere over here, doesn't matter. Somewhere where it's back down to normal again. So again, right shoulder, keyframe, right arm, keyframe, right forearm, keyframe, and right hand. So why I'm doing both sides is because you do want it to return to this point at some point, right? Otherwise, if you don't keyframe that part, Once you modify the animation here, it'll stay there the entire time. You don't want that. All right. So something that looks like this. Okay, so great, that's great. So then now we want to go back and modify the stuff. So again, up here, right where it's going to kind of go here. I think this is a great place to start modifying, this part. And I think what I want to do is start off with the right arm, right? So again, right arm, I'm going to drop it down a bit, kind of do something like this, right? That's the right arm and keyframe. So let's see how that goes. So right arm, and do I miss? Still hitting. So back to here a little bit, and I want to rotate the forearm, I think at this point. So I want to kind of rotate that a lot more just to really be more drastic. Keyframe. So again, it's like this. It goes right arm, right shoulder, and now we're looking at it going over here. It's going to cut into the head a little bit. So I think even here at this point, we want to rotate that arm back a little bit more, right? Keyframe. And then it's going to go into position, right? Like so. And again, if you really want to match it up with our preview asset, we can rotate the hand a little bit. So we can do something like, let's rotate the hand in a little bit and over, just a touch, keyframe, right? So that way, when we get to that point, it kind of looks like this. Nice, right? So there it is. And then when she removes the hand, it's disarmed already. So now this is a problem because the thumb is going in there. So again, what I want to do is from here, I want to, because this is where I've already disarmed. So I've let go of the weapon and I'm coming back out. And so kind of somewhere in here, approximately, let's do it so that the hand isn't touching. Actually, I think even here, because even though I'm missing, I think what I'd like to do is even here, move this back even more. Again, you gotta be careful because if I modify anything again and again, it's gonna be like a jittery thing happening, right? So be careful is all I'm saying. So kind of here, well, this is a great place to move the arm back again. So, so this is the forearm, even more, keyframe. Let's see if that messed things up. So kind of come up. It did not until it came to here. And then this is where I need to turn my hand a bit more. So again, because I've changed the position of the body, the hand needs to change as well, just to make that more believable. Something like that. And then keyframe. And then when the hand gets pulled away and is outside the head, then probably around here, I want to move this arm a little bit back again. So go back to forearm and then, sorry, back to right arm. Do one of those, keyframe, and then pull it out. Don't worry, there's no sword in the hand at this point, so it's okay. I just don't want the hand to go into the head. That's why I'm doing it. And then pull it out and done. Okay, so that's that one done. Save. And now we have our equip montage, and it's going to look pretty good whether we're arming or whether we're disarming. Okay, that's pretty good. All right. So now that we've got that, this is great. We have a couple things to do before we take a break. One thing is inside of the blueprint, the character blueprint, we can actually kind of make those references now. So if I go back to attack montage and click on attack montage, we've made a reference now, and we can do the same thing for equip montage. So those two things we created in C++ now have an asset that's connected to it, a reference to an asset that's connected to it here in blueprints. Compile and save. All right, and if I go back to my PowerPoint, kind of rush towards this part. I want to save file, save all. There it is. I'm going to close off the editor. Okay. And then what I want to do is I want to create two new functions that I'm going to put in .h, right? Two new functions. So copy this one. And I'm going to go back to the Visual Studio code, Visual Studio here. And inside of my private section, which is way down here, just at the top, I'm going to put in those two functions. Right, so let's talk about these functions. One is to play a montage section. We talked about montage sections. We have 3 of them for the attack and 2 of them for the equip. All right, so that's what's happening there. And what I want to do is let's create this. So again, one way of doing that is individually. You can click on the little hammer or the screwdriver. I've got resharper, so I can click on the character class and go to the little hammer here and click on generate definitions, and it's going to bring up all the definitions that I can generate. I'm going to click finish. It'll do them all at once, and then it'll take me to the main character.cpp. So I've done that already. So montage, the two kind of new functions are created. Next, I want to add in a property kind of to keep track of kind of an array of montage sections that I can use. So copy this one. Again, back to the private section. So again, here in the private section down here, put that in. And a couple things to note. We added uanim montage, and we have uanim montage here. So we're covered. We covered ourselves with the last thing that we did because we added in the combat stuff, but we also added in these, which is pretty good. Okay. So we don't have to declare anything else. We've already done our forward declaration and even the regular include in C++. Okay. So now what we need to do is once we have this attack montage sections, let's go to the next step, which is actually define the play montage section. Let me talk about this a little bit. So copy this and go into the CPP file where it says play montage section and paste it in. So what does this do? Right. So that's the first thing to kind of look at. Here it is. So play montage section takes in a uanim montage and a section name. Okay, so again, going up to the top, do I have a uanim montage in main character.cpp? No, let's add it in. So as another include, I'm going to put in another include called animation, and then anim instance is what I want to use. So both the anim montage and anim instance. Go all the way down here. So that's what I'm going to use here. This is anim instance. Anim instance, just to let you know what that is the animation blueprint. That's what it refers to. That's what anim instance is. It's the animation blueprint. Okay. So anim instance basically says, let's get the anim instance from the mesh. That's what this is, and save a reference to it in this new variable called anim instance. Now we're checking if anim instance and the montage, which is of type uanim montage, exists. If they both are there, so I have an animation blueprint and a montage that's been defined. We just did that in blueprints. Then I want to play the montage, right? And I'm going to pass in what montage I'm going to play, the montage that I pass into this method, right? I'm also going to use montage jump to section to play a specific section in the montage. For example, if I want to play the equip, I pass in equip. If I want to pass in disarm, it's going to play the disarm piece. And why this is really great is you don't have to have individual sequences that you want to play. You can just you use the montage, you set it up in blueprints, and then you just decide which section to play. Almost like a sprite sheet, 3D sprite sheet, where each sheet has if you look at a texture atlas, and the texture atlas has a location of everything. In 2D, it's kind of the same thing. We just have the location of different animations in 3D. All right, so that's the first part. The next part is I want to play a random montage, and I'm just going to take this part here and put it in. So that's, again, coming from our PowerPoint. So how does this work? It basically looks at the section names of my array, right? And we're going to set up the section names and blueprints very, very shortly. Then what I do is I say, well, if there's more than 0, so they've been set up, section names are not empty, then that's cool, continue. If not, return, okay? Then we take the maximum section index, we calculate that by taking the number of how big the array is, that's the num value, and then subtracting 1 from it. So if the array was 5, we have max index would be 0 to 4, as an example, right? Then we use rand range, a math function, where we kind of get a random number between 0 and the max section index and store it in the selection variable. And we use this to call play montage section. So this way, what we're doing is we're using this function inside of this function. Okay, pretty cool. All right, so that is the two functions that we made, play random montage section and play montage section. So save all. Next, what I want to do is I want to be able to play those two montages now. So I'm going to grab these two functions and go back to the .h, and just underneath those two functions there, I'm going to put in those two, right? So again, what I want to do is I'm going to define those, right? And I can do them individually like I just did, or you can do it all together. Those are the two functions that I've just defined. And let's talk about them and what they do. So play attack montage, what it would do is it's going to call the play random montage section. So what we're going to do is whenever we play the attack montage, we're going to pick a random attack animation sequence to play. So instead of it just always being the downward stroke or the backhand or whatever, it's going to be different ones every single time we attack, to make it interesting. You don't have to do it that way with your game. You can make it so it's always the same one, but this one just makes it a little bit more interesting. The next one is I want to play my montage section right here when I have a specific montage for the equipment. So the equipment has two sections. Instead of it having section names like random, I don't want to do random equipment. When I'm putting it away, I want to take the specific section name, disarm, and when I'm picking it out of my my back scabbard, I want to pick equip. So those are the two that I'm going to be using here. Save. All right, and the last part is I want to update my attack action, right, so that I can play the attack montage. And let's check this out. So I'm going to copy this and go back into my attack action. Remember that last week we set up all these actions in the main character. And by the way, if it's a lot of functions, you can always look at this to jump in Visual Studio. You can jump to any section that's defined here. For example, I want to jump to the attack section. And here it is. It'll jump me right down into this attack function. So in here, all I'm doing is I'm calling the play attack montage. Now this is not perfect. It's a first version, but it allows to test to see if I can play a random attack, kind of sequences. I don't have a sword in my hand yet, but it's going to show me the animations anyway. Okay. And what I want to do now is Control F5. So save all, Control F5, and let's test it in the editor. And this is kind of our first go at making sure that all this is working properly. Let's try this out. And then hopefully we'll take a short break and get you guys caught up. And then when you're caught up, hopefully we'll be able to do the second half a little bit easier. All right, so here's where we are. We can close this off. We can even close this off for now. And then what I want to do is I want to play, and if I press the left mouse button, you should see this. You should see nothing. So it doesn't work. Okay, so what did we do? Right? What did we do? How come? So I can move, but I can't play any attack. Well, why is that? So play attack montage is what's going to happen here with the main character. This is something that's going on. Play attack montage is here, which is playing a random montage section. Oh yeah, we forgot to include the montage sections. So let's go back up here. And if I go to my main character, open that up. And if I go to combat this time, and if I go here, there is a attack montage sections, and I can add them in by clicking this little plus button. And in here, I can put in attack 1, attack 2, and attack 3. Now, negative about this is you need to know what the section names are. You can't pull them down. It'd be nice if you could, but you can't. So there's attack 1, attack 2, attack 3. And then, at least not the way we did it, compile and save. And then if we press play now, we should be able to attack randomly and even interrupt our attacks a bunch of times, like make them dance a little bit, woohoo, right? Because there's nothing to stop us from pressing that left mouse button over and over again. And we should see all of the different kinds of attacks given enough time. There we go. There's all three. All right, so that's great. And that basically takes us to the end of this section. What I want to do now is, this is our first iteration. It's not great, but I want to file, save all here in Unreal Editor, right? File, save all. And I want to put this up on DevOps. So here's the first push. So view terminal. We're going to say that git add dot, git commit -m. We'll say added 2 montages, which are attack and equip. Those are the ones we kind of added in. And we kind of configure them, and that's why I'm just going to use this. Oops. There we go. All right, so now I want to take a short break, get some coffee and that kind of stuff, and then I want to give you guys a chance to catch up. So can I show the empty definitions you added at the top of CPP file? I missed those. Sure. So you mean the includes? Is that what you mean, Alex? Okay. So the includes, sorry, look like this. That's what I have so far, right? And these includes right here. These are the 2 that I added in. Both animation includes, one for the anim montage, which is the montages that we've been adding, and the other one for the anim instance, which represents the animation blueprint. Anyone else have anything else before we stop recording? All right, I'm gonna stop recording now. We'll take 10 minutes, about 1:02. We'll come back about 1:12, and then we'll continue with this stuff. Try and catch up, guys, so that way we're on the same page. And